Hey, what's up, man? We made it another week. It's the Process
Hey,
Step
Chris.
podcast.
Yes, sir. Good to see you.
That's right. Every week we talk about process or the lack thereof.
That's right. It's probably a coin flip. And then you throw in the occasional political observations. And I mean, honest to God, Chris, it's so hard not to touch on the world around us and just broken or absent process. But no, you know what? I'll tell you, it's summertime, right?
Yep.
As listeners that have windows or have left their bubble will know.
Yep.
It's gorgeous outside, and with that comes an entirely different array of distractions.
Yep.
And here in the Pacific Northwest corner of the world, as we are, there's invariably somebody that's goofing off right this minute,
Oh, yeah.
texting me saying, "Come play."
Yeah.
What it made me think about, Chris, is like, yes, I would like to play more, but
Yep.
I also require an income and I have obligations to folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I've been thinking about just, what are my personal processes
Yeah. Yeah.
and do they enable me or do they
Yep.
slow me down?
Yep.
We've talked about this in the past, and I know probably at the time, I think we were talking through software number 73 that you're trying to your productivity.
Yep.
But anyway, I come to this session with my head's kind of in the space of like process hygiene
Yeah.
and the little things that we do
Yeah.
to roll more smoothly from day to day or meeting to meeting or week to week.
Yep.
And so, anyway, let me pause there for a second. Maybe it's just me that has the short attention span and is ready to take summer's walk.
It's interesting because we oftentimes, I don't think in general, we think about our personal processes.
Yeah.
I think we don't compartmentalize our work, even as males, as good as we are at compartmentalizing.
Sure. Okay. Well, you good one.
But we think of our, well, maybe this is me projecting, but a lot of times I believe we get bad corporate habits.
Yeah. Right.
That lead to bad internal process, which leads to, I think we did a podcast, I don't know, a couple months ago on just reactivity is pseudo work.
Yeah.
And I love this topic because I think there's no better time, one, to be outside, and there's no better time than to identify what truly is work for you.
Yeah.
In the way that you're uniquely built, and how can you leverage that to get more joy out of your work?
Well said. Yeah, and I love the point you make that at a certain stage, our corporate motions start to shape our personal habits.
Yeah.
And in truth, most of us would say, well, I don't live to work. I may enjoy my work. I may find it interesting and I may be passionate about what I do or the people that I serve, but ultimately that's a job, and the job is not going to miss me when I separate. The job is not going to send me a birthday card or a Father's Day card, And so the truth is most of us, I think, depending on the day, would say, well, of course, I work to enjoy life that I created. But you're right. So many of the habits, it's not a lifestyle habit that dictates my work practice.
Yeah.
It's work practice that dictates lifestyle habits. And so a couple of things I was thinking about. One of them is quite simply like, what drives the time I get up in the morning?
Yep.
And where most of my work now is based on outcome, value of out, rather than hours in or that frightening world of you're exempt, which means you're always on the clock.
Yeah.
Unlimited PTO that you can never take. But so often I still get up at a pretty regular time.
Yep.
Plus or minus about 7:15 in the morning.
Yep.
But my first meeting isn't always at 8:00.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that you've been taking meetings across time zones now for years.
I live in the Mountain Time Zone. I work in the Eastern Time Zone. Like that's just the way that it is.
Yeah. Well, you used to have in your past roles, you've done a lot of work with teams. And
Yeah.
so
A lot of my teams were
that's,
in India, which is great. Like they were fantastic.
well, and so as a personal habit, do you get up at the same time on weekends that you get up during the week?
I typically go to bed at the same time. It's
Yeah.
literally not more complicated than that. Like come 8:30 or 9, I'm in bed.
Yeah.
And even on the weekends, like I might splurge a little and stay up till 9:45 or 10:15.
Yeah, really. Good fit. Or if I'm in town, you've been kind enough to stay out a
Oh
little
yeah,
later for dinner.
absolutely.
No, well, but that makes a good point. You have more control over when you go to bed than you do when you have to get up
Yeah.
based on your commitments.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I've greatly simplified that. I do think like from the, personal process things, and I'm just gonna speak for myself. Like this morning I got up and I had coffee on my patio
Mm,
and the birds were out and the sun was rising and it was just five wonderful human minutes.
that's beautiful.
And what's interesting is as you were talking about this, I just started thinking about all my internal processes that I don't do that I know I should do.
Yeah.
Where-
Amen. Right.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of like how Hemingway wrote. I'm going to share a little bit how Hemingway wrote, and then I'm going to share, be a little vulnerable about how I lack process in my life in certain parts. So Hemingway would write and he would get very excited, and that's when he would stop.
Mm,
And so the power of picking up work was an exciting creative task because he left it in a place that he wanted to come back to, right?
Interesting.
Okay. So contrast that with how I work and how I believe many of us work, which is stress driven.
Yeah.
Right? There's no joy in waking up to 100 emails. There might
That's
be
right.
some joy in holding off your emails, doing something that you love for 2 hours and then picking your email up at 10, right? Do we do that in a consistent way? Like I've yet to figure that out yet.
Yeah.
But that is something that you can design into your life where it's like, I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go for a walk. You can build in these habits. And we were talking a little bit about habits before this, but you can build in those habits that give you more life.
Yeah. I love that. You just alluded to it. One of those elements of, does my work drive me or do I drive my work?
Yeah.
I've been reworking the class that I teach adjunct to shift project management to a change management focus. And one of the thinkers that you and I both know is BJ Fogg out of university.
Yep.
And one of Fogg's elements when he talks about any kind of behavioral change, and ultimately, I'm going to interrupt myself for a second and say every single process that we activate is optimized for the situation that we're using it in today.
Oh yeah.
Whether it doesn't work, we've optimized.
Yep.
So there's nobody to blame but us, right?
Even if it causes pain, that's the crazy thing. We have optimized our process, internal, like all of our internal personal ones, for us, even if they're painful.
It's crazy. It's
nuts.
like hitting yourself in the head with your shoe, Makes no sense. But that idea of, process debt, it's one thing to redesign a process to try to alleviate debt. It's different to adopt the new process. And that becomes a question of behavioral change. And so Fogg's model of MAP, which you probably remember, it's this question of motivation on one axis and ability on the other.
Okay.
But his P is this idea of a prompt. And so do we have a prompt that's strong enough to get us, based on ability and motivation, to action the better behavior, right?
Yeah.
If we want to make a change, then we have to have adequate motivation, adequate ability, truly capable of doing anything. But then we need a prompt when the situation arises.
Yeah.
And so to your point, I was thinking about sleep. I often will listen to, 15 minutes of a book on tape as I go to sleep.
Yep.
It dawned on me one day. I'm like, I read the kids' books to go to bed. Why am I not doing this for myself?
Read to me.
But all of a sudden, it means my phone is on my nightstand.
Yeah.
And it's also my alarm clock.
Yep.
And it means the first thing that happens when I reach over to turn off my alarm clock is I now have my digital phone right in my hand.
Yeah.
And so what a simple process that invites checking of email and checking of text message.
Yeah.
And before my eyes are even unblurred. And so I don't know that serves me well. And then to your point about the stress, now I see whatever the hot items are that have just hit my email before I woke up.
Yep.
From other time zones or late last night that I missed. And so that's how I start my day. So that was one of those things.
Yeah.
And how do I adjust just my morning routine to better create capacity? The other one that I've been doing, and I usually do this week over week, but either last thing on Friday, first thing on Monday, I'll do a retrospective, and I have stakeholders for the big project. And I'll say, here's what we did last week and here's what's coming this week.
Yeah.
And the guiding question, it's different than a to-do list because I just want to let them know, is everything good? Were there surprises? Is there heartache?
Yep.
What can they expect to take place this week?
Yep.
And what's funny is that when I write it for them, I focus on what are the big stones.
Yep.
If I were to do it just for myself, I would have like my grocery list on there and that Amazon return, it's the inconsequential stuff that gets cluttered.
Yeah.
Like a grocery list instead of like, what are my big stones? And so I'll say that for me, that weekly practice that's a healthier process. That's probably less debt laden.
Yeah.
In every week I'm recalibrating. Did I deliver on the things that mattered?
Yep.
And then what are the commitments I'm making in the coming week?
Yep.
But a weekly, and I don't necessarily do it daily. So I'm just kind of curious, for me, when a buddy calls and says, hey, can you sneak out to play 9 holes of golf on a gorgeous afternoon? I can look at it and go, I've checked 4 of the 5 boxes. The last one I can do on Friday. So yeah, I can bail on a Wednesday afternoon or something. But I don't know, are there some habits that you've incorporated into your personal hygiene to help manage personal time versus work obligations? Or maybe it's personal time versus personal obligations.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I truly need to work on is just accepting the fact that a good days of work is a good days of work. And a good day of work isn't necessarily 12 or 14 hours or even 8 hours. A good day of work is a good day of work.
Yeah.
And like what's interesting is this whole topic is and it's something that I've been thinking about really in the opposite way, in which how is corporate life corrupted my ability to work, meaning that like it's gamification and politicking.
Right.
And it's disappointing. And so like, and I do think one of the distinctions is we have these infinite tasks, and the infinite tasks are like email. You're going to always have email. You're going to always have calendar stuff.
Amen.
But what gets lost in the knowledge work area is we don't have the outputs and the way that you get there. And we've talked about this a lot. Like, how do you get from point A to point B in knowledge work? Who knows, right? I just know that when I call a lot of clients and they pull up their computer, they have 45,000 tabs up in their Chrome, right? Like that is a very common thing. And some people are like, it's funny because like the people that are our age, we don't care. You're like, look at our browser. You're going to judge us. We don't care. But the people that are younger in their career get all embarrassed. You're like, dude, no, that's how this works.
Like, it's a digital desktop. To give you a sense of what my physical desktop looks like, I have a series of stacks. I have my computer and monitor in the middle. But then I have stacks of paper and materials to the left, and I have a notebook and pen and other materials to the right. But because it's laid out, I can readily reach to grab the thing I need for the conversation. That's why tabs remain open for me, so that I don't forget, in my digital world.
Totally.
No, it makes perfect sense. Well, but you said it's gamification and politicking.
Yep.
In terms of how your personal process and personal time hygiene gets managed. Is there specific examples that have carried over, into this new world, this startup professional services world?
Yeah, no,
fed.
No, that's a really good idea. Like, I think I have to respond to email is a farce. You do, but you don't have to respond right away. And that's something that I'm trying to unlearn. And I plan to use one of the LLMs or one of the AIs to assist me there, right? What came in and what went out the day before or during the last time frame. Is there anything is there anything that is urgent that I need to do? Because I do think that like the major, it would be interesting to do a study on this, but I think one of the major seepages of process debt in knowledge work is admin tasks coming over deep work. And so you do an admin task, right, which is responding to an email. Then you go and try to do some deep work, but you get interrupted by Slack. And so there are some really good tools out there. Freedom.2 is one that's really, really good, where it basically just shuts down everything on your computer and your phone. It's fantastic. It's actually very cheap. I think for a lifetime license, I think it's like under $100. So I have that. Now, do I use that super well? No, because if we go back to our BJ Fogg, where it has to do with your motivation being high or low, or your ability being, this is really hard, to on the right, easy to do. Yeah. Like and those prompts of like, how do I trigger that action? How do I trigger the action to start to press, freedom to block me for 2 hours to focus, right? Totally. And the problem, part of the challenge with that is if most of us just said, hey, look, I'm going to block out 2 hours. We have been trained to react to our phones, to email, to all those things, that it would create more stress until we learned how to focus again.
Yeah. It really is. I laughed when they were saying, oh, kids these days have an 8-second attention span. And I find myself suffering, like sitting. I mean, there's still tasks where I can find myself completely immersed for 90 minutes or better. But if the email dings or if Slack dings or, there's any of 100 little notifications that go off around our digital workplace.
It's interesting. So like yesterday, I was like, I need to do some deep work for a client. I basically just set a timer, started working. It was 2 hours, right? It was fantastic, frustrating work because I didn't necessarily get the outcome because hard work is hard. And what's interesting is that feels less like work because of, I think, the way that the corporate world has trained me than responding to an email and being there, right? And just showing up and doing the thing. And you're like, no, I wouldn't have figured out what the blockers were if I didn't sit down and just grind to difficulty.
It is a funny notion of like, how do I release habits that don't serve me?
Yeah.
And how do I adopt habits that do? Yeah. And I think a little bit of this is things that are well within our control, right? What time do I go to bed? What do I eat? Do I get up and move with any regularity from my office chair all day? That short list is pretty short. And to your point, we're not always experiencing the motivation. We don't have a prompt.
Well, the other thing is we want results so fast. And we're not patient with the process, right? And so we by nature do some things that are very silly that we know won't work, but we just do them over and over again, which is, well, I'm going to use dieting. I'm too fat. I'm going to go run.
Yeah.
Right. So are we fit enough to run? Oh no, but we're going to go run. So you know what we do? We run for one day. The scale doesn't change the next day because I don't know, the law of thermodynamics. And then we're like, oh man, wait, I quit. Right. Whereas like, I do think that if you were to go to our grandparents or our great grandparents, you would find that there were the rhythms of a day that I think just grounded. Right. So like, you know, in the winter, going out, get wood, starting a fire, you know, like I remember my grandparents in these long, like robe things. And you're like, what is that? And you're like, that's because they grew up and it was cold and they had to go start a fire. And so that's just what they did.
Totally.
Right. You go back millennia and it's carry water, chop wood.
It totally is. Feed the animals.
Yeah. It's these like, it's these grounding, boring processes that you couldn't not do.
Yeah. Chris, I love that. I think before I answer the next text message about sneaking out for golf or early happy hour, I love the way you just framed that. What are some of those grounding practices that are worth revisiting and prioritizing? Because I do think that's really at the heart of it is, do I feel grounded to know if I need a 14-hour workday? Am I grounded enough to know that I can play hooky?
Yep.
Or to know the 2 or 3 things that matter most?
Yeah. And also like, what do you control, right? Like if you're getting into your email, setting a timer and 15 minutes or a half an hour is going to be enough and let it go.
Absolutely.
If it's important, it'll come back.
That's beautiful.
All right, man.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right. Catch you next week.
Joining me on that one.
All right.
We'll see you then.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.